So this week, the President hinted that a cabinet reshuffle may be on the cards following the unrest in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. President Ramaphosa says he is applying his mind. What I would say, said the President yesterday, is watch this space. Now, the Special Investigating Unit has also made findings against Health Minister Zweli Mkhize, the suspended Health Minister, who has been on leave following a scandal related to a communications contract. To discuss, we're joined now by Political Analyst Dr. Ralph Mathekga. Doctor, thank you for being with us, as always. Firstly, regarding Zweli Mkhize, the President at one point saying we will wait for the SIU and other investigations. Now we have some findings. What should he do?
Good evening, Francis, and good evening to viewers at home. Thanks for inviting me. I think when it comes to the Zweli Mkhize issue, the President has been pushed to a corner here. He has said that he's going to allow processes. He did not fire Minister Zweli Mkhize immediately after the scandal broke out. He decided to give the minister a special leave, and that has also created pressure because the President said that he's waiting for a report by the SIU. It comes out now, the report as it now is pushing the President to the corner. He has to act now. You cannot continue having Minister Mkhize in a situation where he is. You cannot leave the health department where it is. So in that direction, Francis, I would say that things have conspired to the way that a reshuffle is inevitable. You have to hire a health minister, especially in a moment such as this. You need to fill that position with someone who's going to fully preoccupy themselves with that. You can't keep it like this.
Yeah, and who are the obvious candidates for you?
I mean, of course, it would be getting the familiar one here. It looks like Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi might be coming out, but also provinces have done okay when it comes to health, I would say, to some extent. We have had the talk of Dr. Ramaphosa. I think, Francis, it's all about getting someone who can take a stand and talk to the nation, someone who's not going to go immediately into a credibility crisis, someone who may be understood as holding that credibility when it comes to the pandemic that we have. Yeah. You cannot risk and have someone who will give you an instant credibility challenges. You need a medical doctor seems to be the obvious choice these days. I don't think that personnel that have served there from the point of view of medical profession have done outstandingly well, but I think it will give confidence.
Were you alluding there to the MEC of Limpopo, which has done incredibly well in terms of COVID-19, getting people to be registered, to be vaccinated, and it seemed like she took a really progressive view, saying let's get on social media, let's do what we have to.
Indeed, I mean, what we have seen in Limpopo's vaccination being above the national average in an area that is so sparsely populated, it shows also the strength of institutions, because the approach by the province, as they've said, was to work with the community. They worked with people who visited the elderly in their homes, the home caregivers who have got sufficient information. I mean, Francis, I'll tell you, if you go to a municipality where you have had your ward councillors, you have had your community development workers in place, you have got health workers there, you have such a wealth of institutions upon which to do this, and they went about it the right way in Limpopo. That's why you are seeing things as they are. It was about involving the community, and I think if you have someone bringing that at national level, I will say it could restore confidence in the health system now and in the ability to fight against this.
All right, that's Dr. Ramaphosa. Now, what about the security cluster? A lot of speculation there. What should the President be doing?
I mean, I wouldn't want to be in the security cluster at this point. I wouldn't want to be any minister because this is the cluster where the lapse happened. I mean, the problem with security cluster, Francis, is that when there is a lapse, as we have seen, it's quite apparent for everyone else to observe. So expectations and the public pressure outside is that they ought to be reshuffled. But of course, when you look at the coordination across the departments at the security cluster, your state security, your police and your intelligence, all of these departments have got an intelligence wing to themselves, and the state security, of course, is the main one here. But you ask yourself about coordination, about how they coordinate, and what focus did they have at that time. This just reminds one as well about the lapses at the 911 in USA. You know what happened? Usually nations expect to see change in terms of leadership. I think there ought to be a sense of collective responsibility in the security cluster regarding what has happened. Collective thinking here.
So you can't pick one, because we were hoping that there would be a report given to Parliament today. That's been delayed. State Security saying we gave alerts. The Police Minister saying we didn't receive those alerts. So is it too early to lay blame for you?
They have to be collectively responsible. If someone sent an alert and an alert was not hit at earth, the question should be how much pressing has it been. One way or another, this security cluster, that's why they are a cluster. They are meant to work in unison, not in silos. So the level of coordination that exists, I think, points to that collective responsibility. At some point, I think the ministers are going to have to realize that they are going to have to collectively agree to some of the challenges that they have encountered here. The challenges are quite out there. We've seen the outbreak. We've seen the lapse as it has happened. It's a question of just taking that responsibility. And the difficulty, Francis, I will tell you, I mean, there are also talks of when we talk about this cabinet reshuffle, looking at the security cluster. Imagine a situation where you're going to move a significant number of ministers within your security cluster, particularly at the time that the ANC is as tense as it is. Is it politically possible? I mean, this is one cabinet reshuffle that I would imagine the president doesn't want.
So my final question to you about Minister Zweli specifically, because people have been so critical of the police. We were reporting on those incredible lines of people in cars going to loot, not a police officer in sight in certain parts of KwaZulu-Natal. However, the minister did say, in terms of Nkandla, the illegal gatherings there, and maybe it relates to some of the looting incidents, that they didn't want a Marikana. They didn't want police to go in and other people to have guns and things escalate. And maybe he's been wise in some senses. This could have escalated. Seemingly, according to some reports, the instigators wanted it to escalate, wanted it to tip the state over, actually. What do you think about his stance?
I mean, it's quite reasonable, and I think that indeed it was positive that South African police services did not allow an escalation thereof. But Francis, we also have to be careful about the choices we ended up with, and thinking about if we had enough information or if we treated the information in the manner that we should have and we didn't, would we have had to make the choices where it's about not escalating and allowing the looting? It's a false choice. We should not have gotten to the point where a choice has to be made whether you stop the looting and escalate into a massacre or you allow the looting to happen. That is why critical information that should have been available beforehand should have been able to allow our security to be able to respond accordingly. The thing here is that, remember, Francis, as much as we are trying to talk about this, we're working with scanty information. These are matters involving intelligence. You just don't even have sufficient information in the public eye.
Yeah, and presumably the president could access further information. Thank you for that, political analyst Dr. Ralph Mathekga.